Welcome back to Sports Federation TV. The show is brought to you by the Western Cape Provincial Sport Confederation. My name is Alton Davids. The Western Cape Provincial Sport Confederation hosted its annual appreciation dinner at the Century City conference venue this past weekend. We will showcase some of the activities and some of the speeches that were presented at the awards dinner. Let's start with an overview of the event and the speech by our president, Mr. JP Nadir.
Goeienaand, dames en heren. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And welcome to our wonderful annual Western Cape Provincial Sport Confederation Gala Dinner. Are we excited to be here this evening? Excellent. Your President of the Western Cape Provincial Sports Confederation, Mr. JP Nadir.
For those of you that are here for the first time tonight, let me give you a quick introduction. What we need to recognize is how much time and effort and personal sacrifice sports administrators put into the game. Quite often at their own expense and quite often to great sacrifice. And quite often it's the people at home that are making the sacrifice to allow those of us that need to go and administer sport that make the biggest sacrifice. And that is what it is that we try and recognize here, is a sense of appreciation for each other, appreciation for the administrators and our significant others that allow us here to do what we do. And so for those of you that have brought your significant others along tonight, whether it be for business or whether it be in the sports space, think of tonight also as your evening. And that's why tonight is all about having fun, relaxing, enjoy yourself, and just let your hair down, so to speak. So I want to talk to you just about one or two things. And last year when I was here, I mentioned the fact that as a sports fraternity, as a sports sector, we face a number of different threats. The economic threat is out there, the lack of education, there is various distractions when it comes into in our society in general. But what I mentioned last year was that our biggest threat was not going to be an external threat. It wasn't going to be the economy. It wasn't going to be PlayStation games. What the biggest threat at that stage, and still is an internal threat. It's our leadership. It's how do we operate as a leadership? And the things that I've noticed, and every day is an education for me. Every day I'm learning something new. Today we had our AGM, and standing there, I had to take a lot of lessons for myself in terms of that process. But leading up to that process also is a lot of lessons. And the daily interaction that we have with federations and how we try and steer the way forward and guide federations, there's always something interesting to learn. And the thing that saddens me most, that I've come across as one of our biggest internal threats. And I spoke last year about internal threats in terms of the generational gap, that we've got youngsters that are coming through the ranks that don't have the wisdom of the people that came before them, and that we have to protect that wisdom and pass it on to the youngsters. And at the same time, I spoke about a generation that is not embracing the youngsters. So that was very much about a territorial threat, a power-based threat of individuals who hang on to power and they don't want anyone to hand it over. The concern that I have now, and we see it in various federation spaces, various national structures, is two things. The one is that when we are elected, quite often we see an elected official get elected onto an executive committee, like we're an executive committee. And for some other reason, the mentality changes into a us and them scenario. And that is one of our factors that we as the sport leadership in South Africa must be cognizant of. As a provincial leadership, you are really going to struggle at your federation if you do not have a unified executive that works for the General Assembly. If it becomes at any stage an us and them scenario, you've lost the connection and you will fail. When you get elected into this position, you're not going to the other side of the fence. My advice to you as the leadership is understand where you come from and remember who put you into that space, and try your very best to at all times make sure that it's not an us and them scenario. This is one of the things we have to work on to try and have a good working sports environment. So make sure it's not an us and them scenario. And the other threat that we have is personalities. In my rounds with many of the sport federations, I am lately too often seeing personality conflicts. How that happens, why it happens, I'm not qualified to say, but I can see it. And that is a reputational problem that we could have in the future. Currently, we're in a good space. Our reputation is reasonably intact, and I'll talk about that in a second. But you need to be wary of having personality problems in your leadership space. My advice to the leadership is make sure that your executive committee is a family, that you're all together on the same page, that you all support each other. Now, to my next point. I recently watched an interview with Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was the governor of California, but one of his main causes was the environment. Still is the environment. And they asked him, why does he dislike politics? What's his dislike for politics? And he said, well, for him it's very simple. How can the environment, global warming, which surely is a concern for all of us, the air we breathe, the water we drink, how can the environment not be the top of everybody's priority? How can the environment become a political issue? Surely that doesn't make sense. Everybody should be wanting more clean air. Doesn't matter what sort of politician you are. Everybody should want to reduce global warming. It doesn't matter what political party you are. And of course, in that space, it's liberals and Democrats. The point that he was making is that the politicians have politicized that. But what we should be seeing is politics should be driving that. All politicians across the board should not be segmented. We should be treating sport in the same way. Sport is not there to be politicized. Sport is something that is there for everybody. And I think that goes to what Paul was saying as well, or adding to what he's saying, is that the doors for sport participation in South Africa should be wide open. And it should not be politicized. It should not be discriminated. And in fact, those of us here as leaders of sport in South Africa should be opening the doors wide for people to do sport. And if you look at the Transformation Charter, one of the questions that it asks you in the Transformation Charter is, what is your contribution to government priority? And when you open your door for athletes, for youngsters, for girls and boys to come and do sport at your sport code, you're giving them the opportunity for you to educate them, for you to empower them. But if you don't get them through your door, you will never be able to reach them. The only way you can educate somebody or reach them or influence them is once they sign up into your space. I personally, in 2007, was on the field at Newlands as the master of ceremonies on that day, was 50,000 people in the stadiums with me and 250,000 people in the street outside. And that was a celebration of the 2007 World Cup that I was doing with Tokyo Sexwale and John Smith, and I gave them a bunch of platinum medals, and it was fantastic. And that was the celebration at that time. And the question has to be asked, what did we do to capitalize on that opportunity? Now we have Seaphoria, and the country is absolutely loving every minute of being a South African. The question that I have to you as sports leaders is, will you capitalize on this opportunity now? And if you don't wake up on Monday morning and say, I'm going to grab this opportunity now to open my door to recruit more athletes into my sports space, you're going to wake up in 3 months' time and Seaphoria would have calmed down a little bit. You need to strike while the iron is hot. This is the perfect time for all of you in this room to buy shares. Buy shares in the sports industry. Open your doors. Tomorrow morning, go and ask yourself, what message am I putting on my Facebook page? Am I advertising my club's telephone number? Am I advertising my website? Which schools am I going to send emails to? Which clubs am I going to put on a website to say sign up here? Who am I going to send a bulk email to say sign up here? What message am I going to give them? Boys and girls, come join our club. This is your opportunity to strike while the iron is hot. In the Transformation Charter, one of the very first questions that we look at is participation. When I look at the stock exchange and I want to see the company success rate of a company, I will look at the share market and I will see whether the share price is up or down. When I look at sports leadership and I want to measure the share price or the success of our CEOs, our sports leaders, I go to our Transformation Chart and I look at your participation. Have you got more athletes today than you had yesterday? Folks, it's Seaphoria time. Go and grab those girls and boys that are out there. Go grab them to come and do sport with you. Embrace them. The Confederation is here to support you all the way. All you need to do is pick up the phone. To those of you that are here tonight, I can just say once again, our appreciation and gratitude is very difficult to bring across in words. Know that what you are doing is recognized, is appreciated, and I certainly hope that your own federations are also giving you that sort of recognition. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy the drinks. Let your hair down. Have fun. Laugh. Thank you.
As you can see, a glitz and glamour event held at the Century City Conference Center. Let's take an ad break. We'll be right back.